Hopefully you can hear us. I'm just glad you all could be here today. Mom told me a couple years ago that she wanted to have her funeral luncheon in this room. We couldn't do it. I think the people come back and forth to Florida, so we couldn't do it for my dad. But it was pretty nice that it worked out that we could do this room. She wanted to have it here. And then for the Carselli side, Mom told me a story that I don't know if it was called Michigan Catholic at the time, but when Mom and Dad were engaged and they were going to move to this new suburb out here, Grandma Carselli found in the paper that they were going to build this new church in the woods. So she clipped the article and gave it to my mom, and then here we all are, 66 years later. But anyways, Mom was raised in Detroit. She was baby sister to 3 older brothers and sisters. There was a lot of love, laughter, and happy times at Carselli House in Manheim. The house was filled with lots of extended family visits. Great-grandma Carmela stayed for months at a time. Cousins Liz and Betty were there all the time. They had many celebrations like Christmas Eve, Bon Vigil. Visits downtown on the streetcar to Hudson's. For Verner's ice cream floats, bike rides. They lived close to Belle Isle. They would ride their bikes there in the summertime. So that was all part of their growing up. Mom adored her big sister Lee. She followed her around the house from the time she got home from work until she went to bed. And she would say that Lee would be doing her makeup and she'd sit at the edge of the tub or something and watch her. But Aunt Lee never got tired of it. One time in the streetcar, this is one of her favorite stories. One time in the streetcar, she kept calling Lee Mom. And Aunt Lee was like, "Shut up, Mom, don't be calling me Mom. We have a mom." And then my mom would tell her, "But I want a young mom like you." So when Grandma Carselli died, my mom was about 30 years old. So Aunt Lee did become really like a second mom to my mom. And she was always very special to her until we lost Aunt Lee 11 years ago. They were very close. Buddy was the big brother. He was always the jokester and the teasing his little sister. He was the teacher. He taught my mom how to tie her shoes and to tell time. He was a really good brother. He would, even on his dates with Aunt Barbara, he would bring my mom along. She couldn't believe it. The little sister would tag along in the back seat. And Aunt Barbara, she had a special bond with her too. Very close. Henry was the cool brother. He was very artistic. After high school, Mom had a series of jobs working in retail downtown Detroit. Henry told her that was not enough. She needed to make something of herself. So she enrolled in this training program for this pentameter operator, which they say it's like a calculator or computer or whatever it was. Anyways, that was a respectable career for a young woman in the 50s to have that. And she had, I think she worked at Uniroyal, and then she worked at Chrysler, and then she went back to Uniroyal. But she did that up until the time she was pregnant with Amory, and then when she was born, she quit work. One of the happiest family memories was the big trip they took out to Albuquerque with her family to visit Uncle Henry when he was in art school. And then I think they took, I guess in 1950 or whatever it was, you know, they didn't fly first class. You had to take a bus. You know, and I don't know, I know it was days and nights, and that sounds terrible. They took a bus. And then when they got to Albuquerque, I know when Grandpa, I can't remember his name, but he had a brother that I think lived in LA somewhere. And then he hadn't seen him in many years or whatever. So I think Uncle Henry said, "You want to go, Dad, and visit your brother?" And they said, "Yeah." So I think they all got into some little car with no air conditioning and drove across the desert and all. But that was like a famous story that we always had going on. After the war ended, all these older siblings were married and kind of left the house. And Mom said that it suddenly became much too quiet and boring. But Richard was still there. He was the athletic brother. He was in all of the sports, and they were the closest in age. They shared a lot of laughs, and they were like best friends. They were in 1958, Mom married Dad. They moved to the suburbs out here. Soon after, she started her favorite job was just being our mom. She was devoted to us from the time we were born until our final days. She was involved a lot of stuff with this. That was our school over there. Now it's a Montessori, but that was a safe and fair Catholic school. 1st to 8th grade. Jeannie was the first class to go all the way through when the school opened. But she was involved in the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, Mom's Club, all those different things. She told the therapist, Jeannie overheard, she told the therapist in Anthology, where she was last living at, what made her the happiest was when her kids came to visit. At the hospital, in the middle of everything that was happening on her last day, we moved her from the regular bed where she was in that terrible breathing machine to the hospice, but there was a little time in between when they took that off, she just had a regular breathing. Her last thing she ever said to me was, did I get my lunch yet? That famous mom, always worried about food and whether you ate or didn't eat and all that. I thought if that's the last thing she ever says to me, that's okay. But she taught us one of the most important things in life, the importance of family. And that she learned growing up with her brothers and sisters and parents, and she taught us those same things. One of Mom's favorite things to do was to pass along little bits of advice or news of interest to us. She would clip little short articles from newspapers or magazines that related to our work or hobbies. One of them I have on my refrigerator door was the 10 Steps to a Happy Life, and it was like health and wellness related. I guess it's like if you're going to go for that leftover cake, you didn't know it, and you think, well, maybe I better not go. Yeah, so I don't know, maybe she's trying to tell me something. In the last few years, though, I stopped getting those articles as my mom had her health issues and moved to assisted living. Her mini stroke last year, we could feel her slowly starting to slip away. In October, she announced to me that this was her last birthday on Earth. Jeannie overheard her tell the therapist before the holidays she wanted to celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas, but was ready to go. So she was preparing herself and us for what was to come. Dad was the surprise. We thought we would have a little more time with him. We thought maybe Mom would go, but we'd have a little more with him. But I think his passing was it for my mom. She was ready. So what I think Dad got to heaven and looked around, seen how good it was. I think he met with Aunt Lee, and they hatched a plan. I think Aunt Lee probably had the inside with God, and they scheduled a meeting, and they met with God, and they asked him to bring her home and back to her family. So I think that's what happened.